Okay, so we've had a nice chat about what new Ventus products do on paper, and today, Jerod, you're the guinea pig to show us what happens when players hit them.
Excellent.
So we're going to hit all 3 profiles, and all we want from you is just some honest feedback, and give me your thoughts as we move through them.
Okay, perfect.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right, so let's kick it off. Let's do new blue profile,
Okay.
VELOCORE Plus, hit 3 or 4 shots, see how it goes.
Okay, let's do it.
So after
that one went a
two
little.
shots,
Yeah, first one felt really great. Second one I don't think was a great swing.
okay,
That miss left's usually not my miss.
Okay.
So still felt great.
good, good, good. A little more like it.
I hit that one pretty good. Yeah, little just falling right. That's my shot.
So one of the things we talk about in this profile is it is a little bit softer in the handle section than the other 2 profiles. Essentially what that does is it increases feel a lot and really just makes the shaft easier to load. But you know, you're a higher ball speed player at 160. So can you give me any feedback in that area? Do you feel like the shaft loads pretty easily? Do you feel like it's...
Yeah, it felt great. I mean, I could feel it loading, but
Yeah.
it felt very controlled, which I
Good.
like because it and I've tried some other shafts that are really stiff,
Yeah.
and I don't like them. So I kind of like that feedback or that
Got it.
feel. So
Well, we're going to
yeah.
try some of those in a minute, so
Excellent.
I'm glad we started with this one. But yeah, that is the idea of, we're trying to build consistency throughout the profile so that even when we change profile, the feel may not be quite right for that swing type or that player type, but we still want the product to be consistent, and we don't want that to cause too many wayward shots. So
Right.
I say hit one more, and then we'll switch, and
Sure.
we'll move on. Great shot.
Yeah, just a little fade right. That's my shot.
Okay, I love it. All right, so let's switch it up. That's kind of neutral territory. So let's go to kind of the other side of the spectrum. Let's move into red.
Okay.
It'll be stiffer in the handle section, but softer kind of in the mid to tip section. So what you could expect on paper, I always say on paper because every player is different. A little more launch and spin, probably a little more action and feel, potential workability towards down into impact. So let's switch and we'll give it a shot.
Awesome.
Okay, so moving into the red profile, this is kind of the inverse of blue. So blue starts softer in the handle and then gets progressively stiffer all the way to an ultra stiff tip. This is the inverse of that. So it's very, very stiff in the handle section and then gets progressively softer as it moves towards the tip.
Okay.
We design shafts that way, kind of with those softer sections to sometimes increase launch and spin.
Okay.
But as you know, everything is very player specific and player dependent. So we got guidelines, but that's where hitting and testing it comes into play. So hit a few and we can compare it to the last.
Okay.
Then when we hit the last profile, we'll compare all 3.
Awesome. Ooh, felt good.
So after a couple shots, kind of need to hit a 3rd one to confirm, but any initial feedback, especially both on its own and as it compares to the last shaft that you hit?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it feels a little softer.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep.
Let me hit one more.
Okay.
So I definitely feel like, I like my little fade.
Yeah.
I aimed on the left, and
Yep.
I kind of have that little bleeding cut.
Yep.
I feel like this one could do it on it. Like, I feel like I can miss this one a little bit more right than the other one.
Yeah, and an important thing to keep in mind too is when we talk about how players load a shaft, that can translate into speed as well, right? So how you feel the shaft sort of kicking will affect how aggressively you can move into the ball. If you feel like that's a little bit softer and it's going to kind of get away from you, players have a tendency to slow down a little bit because it's kind of that unsure feeling of what's about to happen.
Right.
And sometimes if the load profile kind of in the handle section is a little more friendly to your golf swing, you start to see that you can feel a little more aggressive and you feel where the shaft is better. So even without looking at the numbers totally combined, I can tell you the other one's just a tick faster. And that has a lot to do with how you load the golf club and swing the golf club. So your feedback translates pretty spot on with the numbers, especially to those 2 profiles.
Gotcha.
Okay, let's switch it up. We'll go to the other end of the spectrum. We're going to go kind of the lower launching, stiffer profile, lower spinning version. Let's try that.
Cool.
Okay, so this is the last of the 3 profiles, and this is sort of the Ventus black profile, which is very stiff in the handle section, very stiff in the tip section, and pretty stout in the mid section. So, ideally we're looking for lower launch and spin, but really that profile caters to players that have a more aggressive or rapid transition down into the ball, and really for the player type that wants to feel minimal flex and movement during the swing. The shaft is going to flex, it's going to move, but some player types, don't want to feel that happen. They see it as a loss of control sometimes.
Okay.
So we'll hit it, then we'll do feedback. We'll kind of walk through all 3 after this.
Okay. I like that ball flight.
Yeah, it's very good. Now, feel-wise,
It's stiff.
okay, it feels stiff. Got it.
It feels stiff. It's
Got it.
it's yeah. That one I just feel like that was different than the red in that I feel like I couldn't catch up to it. I couldn't square the face because it was just so it was kind of behind me, which is why I think I like that blue profile so much.
Yeah, makes sense. The result's good. The feel,
It's
not quite there.
oh, I like the feel of it. It's harder work, I guess is how I can
Yeah.
explain it.
That's fair to say.
Yeah.
That's fair to say.
I got to swing it faster. I think maybe I'm on the low spectrum of being able to, in terms of speed for something like this. But when
It's
I hit it
also interesting to see, and we'll kind of look through your numbers, but we see this happen from time to time with players. Oftentimes, with players with a lot of speed and a lot of feel, you can see stiffer profiles actually launch a little bit higher than higher launching products. And where we see that happen is the shaft just kind of stays a little bit more with the golf swing. You don't see a lot of lag and deflection. And so you see more of a true loft and impact, which can actually cause launch to be a little bit higher.
Gotcha.
So as a through line, yes, we see kind of red profiles being the highest, blacks being the lowest, blues kind of somewhere in the middle. But we do see players from time to time that if they kind of are a blue profile player and they're in between maybe on flex or speed, you can sometimes see a black profile launch just a little bit higher than a red. And that's really just where the shaft is kicking and moving into the swing.
Right.
So with the red, you may see more stability on the way down, right? But if you feel like that shaft is behind you or lagging too much,
de-loft
or
it.
it gets
Yeah.
correct.
Right.
So this is the other important thing is these are great guidelines to understand, but this is why we encourage you to work with a fitter.
Right.
Because sometimes you can not always see the opposite, but you can see some interesting sort of differences between the 2 or 3 parts that you test.
Gotcha.
So let's take a look at all 3 and we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Okay, so we hit all 3 profiles. We'll talk about feel in a second. Let's just talk a little bit about numbers. So we talked about how this can happen with stiffer profiles and how the shaft basically lags, leads, and kicks.
Right.
And we actually saw with the black profile that you had a higher launch angle than the blue or the red. Spin's about the same between the black and the blue. Club speed, about a mile an hour slower with the black profile. Ball speed, also black is the slowest. So you made a comment to me when we were kind of off camera about where you feel like you have to work a little bit harder to hit the black.
Yeah.
And what we can see happen is players start to develop a two-way miss. When the shaft is kind of there and you're fighting it the whole time, you can see blocks and you can see pulls, and that's just not really what you experience when you're in the right profile, which is something you didn't experience with blue. We did see that the red spins a little bit more, which is kind of what we expected to see. But again, that's where profile and player feel are starting to match up. Your club speeds and ball speeds, the black is the slowest, but they're not radically different.
Right.
So I mean, you could theoretically grab any one of those shafts and play, but this is why it's important to go through a fitting, is because you're starting to see that just because on paper it says one thing doesn't mean that playability is that same thing for you. So overall, what are your thoughts on the 3 profiles?
Well, I mean, blue is definitely where I would go.
Okay.
Red, again, felt a little squirrely, I guess you could call it, and black just worked like I had to work really hard.
Yeah.
So I don't like to have to swing hard, like you said, on the golf course, because then my two-way miss does come in.
Yep.
But blue's definitely my profile. They all felt great.
Good.
Just in different ways.
Yeah.
But in terms of keeping a ball on the golf course, as Jack says, the blue, I think, is going to complement my swing and just be able to let me swing how I want to.
Great, and it was great to see when you're hitting shots, your mishit shots, while they feel like massive mishits are not that wild. And that's really kind of a testament to the technology in the shaft. That's kind of what VELOCORE Plus is really doing, is we're increasing ball speed, but we're tightening dispersion, right, and improving feel across the board. So it's good feedback for us to hear that they all feel good, and we know that not all 3 profiles are going to suit all players.
Right.
So I think this is a perfect demonstration of the 3.
Yeah, that's why you make 3, right?
Yeah, that's why we make 3. We don't make 1.
So you've almost got the full story. We've had the history lesson from Spencer. We've seen Mark dive into the S3 numbers. We've watched Jerod act as our robot and beat those golf shafts down. Now, the last piece of the puzzle is just to get some fitter feedback and see what they're getting in fittings and in real golf course environment. Let's jump into it.
Ventus Blue. It's really hard to believe that you could come out with something better than the original. Then they came out with the TR, and I feel like it was better. And now we got the Ventus Blue Plus. It's incredible. I feel like misses have gotten tighter. The ball flight's more consistent, and it's been pretty exciting. And now we hear that we have a new red and black coming out. Can't wait.
Well, that was always it was a concern, just because that the original Ventus was so good that anytime they're replacing it with something, it's got to be just as good, if not better. So, and it from what I've seen in fittings and playing it, it's definitely I found a lot tighter dispersion, less spin. I haven't had anybody yet that doesn't like the feel of it. If the red and the black are similar improvements than the blue, or than the blue did, it's going to be a home run.
The original Ventus Blue shaft we had great success with, from all weights, 50 gram, 60 gram, especially really good in the 70 gram with the fairway woods. And then they came out with this new one. It's really good. I have found that the slower speeds have done better with the 50 gram stiffs. And it's not just for the higher speeds. I wouldn't classify it as a mid-launch, mid-spin. It seems to work for everybody. The players that I have fit, we're seeing straighter ball flights. I think the spin rate's down a little bit, a little more piercing with the driver. Feel-wise, the feel that we have heard has been it's a little more smoother transition. I personally put it in play this weekend, and it was amazing. Can't wait for the new red and the new black coming. Excited to see how much better that has gotten. If it's anything like this, it's going to be awesome.
Well, that was it. FUJIKURA week wrapped it up. I'm pretty impressed that FUJIKURA have created brand new product that basically mirrors the OG, and it's actually performing better. We're seeing the numbers that they said, we're seeing the feel that they say, and now we're seeing the results on the golf course in fittings with our fitters. So if you've been an OG Fuji player in that Ventus product, it's time to get back out there. Try the new product, try VELOCORE Plus, and see if it works for you today. Book your fitting at coolclubs.com, head to our website, check us out online, we're ready for you.